friends. I am that I am, Sarah of Sovereign Mind and Biological Freedom. Today I'm recording something special for you all. Just an experience to share. Not teaching anything, not having to grasp anything, but simply sharing an experience. Back in 2018, I began to talk about the crumbling identity and how freedom could only be found when we act from a no self, when the human becomes all of humanity and the ego becomes the we-go. I was actually kicked out of several forums. I was so excited when I discovered this. Wow, the end of suffering exists, and this is how you get there. And I began to share so innocently, so enthusiastically, and I was immediately shut down and removed from several forums. And I realized I'm in the wrong place. That's okay, I'll share elsewhere. And I also realized it wasn't the other God alsos in the consciousness of the I exist that I was dealing with, but the identities who wanted to cling so much to the illusion of human free will. The idea that there's a choice and that the choice matters in this fictitious reality, the real illusion, the relative reality of Earth. I was so interested in 2018 after my realization, after the dust settled. I was so interested. How do you stay on Earth? How do you interact on Earth without creating another identity, without creating another aspect? Is it possible to interact on Earth without creating another fictitious personality? Because after realization, you go into that 0 point where you're actually truly who you are. It was my life commitment, my lifetime's commitment to figure out what are the dynamics of becoming all of humanity. The being, we go, we went. And then Kuthumi came along when Moria decided to incarnate back on Earth, but in a meta reality, in a virtual reality, in a technology reality. So Moria left, and a split second later, Kuthumi arrived and said, we will do this together. We will go on an adventure. And every day since that day Kuthumi showed up, in February, March of 2020, every morning he's woke me up and said, what kind of adventure are we going to have today? Then in 2021, Kuthumi and I sat down and began to record the light body sessions. And Yogananda showed up. Two beautiful beings who walked the earth and stayed on earth for many years past realization, who knew how to be on earth without creating yet another aspect, identity, personality, or separate anything to be here. We recorded the light body sessions and we met with so many of you. What I really understand, what I can really see after all these years and all this work with Moria, Kuthumi, Yogananda, Mary Magdalene, and myself and you all, is that the identity creates a situation of film in which these concepts cannot land in application. And as we show up on these small group calls, the divide becomes wider and deeper between those who are trying to apply their concepts in their Atlantean design mind through the filter of their identity, and those who are willing to embark with trust beyond fear into the space, into the void of no self, and allow the flowers to bloom from the seeds that were planted in the Piscean age by Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, and a version of myself and a version of you. What we're really talking about here is shattering the glass ceiling on God. We began the light body sessions to really talk about what this means and what you're choosing, and to really feel into if this is something you'd like to really be, that it's your priority above all else, that there's no desire or passion anymore for the limited human experience. From the identity's perspective, it's like you're giving up so many things, but in the end, you'll realize it was never a sacrifice. It was always about you being you. In the second part of the light body sessions that were recorded earlier this year in 2022, we went deeper into how the mind is sovereign and the creation of the new human species, which naturally occurs when one allows the fictitious persona, body, and the hive mind designed in Atlantis to fold into the all that is with perfect love and perfect trust. And then after we finished the light body sessions, Kuthumi said, we need to go a little bit further. Sarah, can you push forward into further a little bit more with me? And I said, yes, Kuthumi, I can. So we recorded the Magi magic event, and we went into the inner workings of the mind. For so long, we've been pushing the mind away, going beyond it, cursing it. Dumb mind, dumb brain. Go beyond the mind, go beyond the mind. And then there comes a point where the mind stretches so far it snaps back into place, but it lands in a new place, the sovereign mind. And it allows the biology to catch up. In June of 2022, just a few weeks ago, I met with several beings who had embarked deeply into the light body sessions, and beings who had dived deeply into the Magi magic event. And I cannot share those calls with you. We only met with 3-4 of you per call. One call had 6 people. But what we talk about in those calls, because I can't share them with you, I just want to give you a feel of what is going on there and how different it is from things that are popular and mass-produced and broadcasted in all of the metaverses, and share with you what it's like to be God. Where we are going here with the 3 people or the 30 people or the 300 people who choose to play with Kuthumi and I, where we are going into further is this body, this lifetime is simply one single cell in an infinitely celled organism. 1,000,000 cells, 1,000,000,000 cells, 1,000,000,000,000 cells, infinite celled being. Only one cell is this lifetime, is this body. You are one tiny cell in an infinitely celled being called God. And then if you back up and turn 8 degrees to the right and deepen into a wider ring of beingness, you'll see that this lifetime, this body, is just a single neuron in the mind. Each lifetime experience and unexperience, the path you chose and you didn't choose, it's simply another neuron and another neuron. Who you were yesterday is different from who you are today, another neuron. The lifetime in which Atlantis fell and the flood occurred, another neuron. The lifetime prior to this one in a linear timeline, another neuron. The lifetime that did not occur, but simply lived as a potential, another neuron. And it's all taking place in my mind. And as it's all taking place in my mind, I'm more in my body than I ever have been before in any experience that's all happening now. As we back away from the need to perceive ourselves as a singular defined being, the last lifetime being, the realized being. As I said in one of my Satsangs before Kuthumi arrived, realization is just one grain of sand in an infinite beach that is God. We talk about these things in concept, but I'm beginning to live it. All of the lifetimes are taking place. They're all shining their light. Every single lifetime I lived and didn't live are all realized now. And each one is a neuron in my sovereign mind. Each body, the synapses between the neurons. And yet I am here. I am here on earth for the very first time. I am life for the very first time. And yet I have always been God and I have always been life. We talk about the end of relationship. Many of you file that away in your Atlantean design mind as you have to get rid of relationships with other people. Truly, that's not what we are saying. We are saying you give up the relationship of opposites. There is a separate identity person outside of me, and there is me experiencing them. You're giving up relationship between two things, that you're giving up the relationship between you and your situation. And most of all, you're giving up your relationship between an inner world and an outer world. It's the most terrifying thing of all. Your inner world has been your safe space. It has been where you've gone to figure things out, to pause. But this embodiment, this full luminosity and being light, occurs in the act of allowing of the mind to come along and understand through pure awareness rather than perception that things have always been this way. You just didn't see them the way that they were. The stories you've told yourself are not true. The stories were simply a way to hold the identity in place for fear of going out of existence. Everything you've desired is on the other side of it. The paradox here is that You think you need the identity to experience the God also, and yet the God also, who you truly are, can only be experienced beyond the identity. Where we are going is this body, this lifetime. It's simply energy. It's simply one single cell in an infinitely celled organism. And it's actually just a single neuron that's really in your brain-mind mechanism. My personal experience is that I experience this lifetime as one neuron inside of my head. I'm keenly aware without focus of each lifetime as another neuron in my head. I'm keenly aware that each lifetime is as undefined as I am. Each lifetime is as realized as I am, which simply means that each lifetime is experiencing the single neuron in the head as who they are, but they're also aware of the infinite number of cells, of neurons. Each lifetime is aware of me in linear year 2022, and I am aware of them. Through conversations with Moria and creating his avatar in a virtual reality to create potentials, possibilities, probabilities, and passageways for those choosing realization in the metaverse. Simply through that conversation, simply through recording the light body sessions, and most of all, meeting online with each and every one of you, I am able to hold this state in a dynamic permanence. The permanence comes in being constantly in change, constantly in flux. The change is what is permanent. Never stopping in a fixed point ever again. All radiates around, within, underneath, above, the I exist. Moving forward, Kuthumi and I will be creating more experiences to become intimate with this experience of being God also. We will be sharing with those who want to dive deeper. And we greatly appreciate everybody who has added their energy and consciousness to our offerings in a very mature way, beyond group dynamics, beyond a mob mentality, beyond hopping on the next new thing, and allowing the sacred art of surrender to take you where you've always been. I am love with you, and